You guys know Mike Westmore from Star Trek? If you guys Trekkie? So Mike Westmore created the designs, and we're at Star Trek convention one year, Kathy and I, and suddenly we're not paying attention, and suddenly somebody's lifting this up, and we go, hey, and we look up, it's Mike Westmore, and he goes, wow, this is pretty damn good.
It's fan-made.
Yeah.
All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Land of the Lost panel here at Terrificon. My name is Kyle Williamson. I am the executive producer of Fandom Spotlite, and I get to moderate this fun group, who doesn't really need moderators because I've seen them singing and dancing at other panels.
No, we refuse to sing and dance today.
Guilty.
We will.
But let me introduce these fine folk. First, to my left, the lovely Kathy Coleman, who is Holly on the show. Though she was also on Adam 12 before that. This was like her...
Just one episode.
Just one episode, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Phillip Paley, the amazing Chaka. Wesley Eure, the amazing Will Marshall.
Hey guys.
And
That's it? That's all we get? Oh my God! Woo-hoo!
And the incredible writer David Gerrold down the end there.
Yeah!
Who not only worked on Land of the Lost, but is known for his Tribble episodes, like all of the Tribble episodes he wrote. It's amazing.
Yes.
I hope it wasn't a lot of Tribble at all. But and then we have a Sleestak down the end here.
Hey.
Slash.
Everybody hiss for him. Okay, I'm sorry that we only have 3 microphones for you all guys to share. But,
We'll share. You don't get to talk.
but we are recording, so definitely use the microphones. Now, you guys, I grew up with the show. It was an amazing show. Thanks. And I definitely, and I love seeing your panels. I saw you did a virtual panel during the pandemic. How did you guys fare during the pandemic, the lockdown? Could you explain how you weathered that particular storm? I mean, you dealt with dinosaurs, but this was a little different, right?
Yeah. I think, well, listen, all of us, right? I mean, everybody in this room, I mean, we all hopefully hunkered down, but it was scary, you know, and
It still is.
it's very scary.
You all
I
stay
became
safe
like a
and stay
shopping nut bar. I was like on the hot for pursuit for Lysol spray. You know, I was like, I was just the crazy shopper. I was just like rat stalking stuff.
I have a case of Lysol in my car for you, don't
Well,
worry.
now you can get it
Yeah.
anywhere, but I mean,
Amazon just loved us, and you know, the mail guy would come with like 10 packages a day, right? You guys know what I'm talking about, right?
Beginner.
Yeah. The mailman delivered some packages the other day, and I said, has it slowed down a bit? He goes, yeah, there's kind of a lull. I live in Palm Springs, and of course it's hot. But he said, yeah, there's going to be a lull. I said, well, I expect a little rise soon, you know. But, yeah.
Yeah, we all hunkered down, and we noticed there was a pandemic. My son and daughter-in-law got pregnant, and we had a baby arrive July 21st of 2020. So we were concentrating on raising the baby, and every so often, you know, there's a pandemic out there. It's like the kids were staying at home, having a great time with my grandson, and I would go out and do the shopping, and you know, and I was with the gloves and the mask and the hand sanitizer and the hose me down when I get home. Other than that, I went crazy.
You are crazy, David.
Well, yeah, it was just a little farther, a little more. It's like not noticeable to the average person. Is that, oh, he's crazier. How did we tell?
He has the cutest grandson, by the way. If you're on Facebook, you've got to see pictures.
Or you come by the table where we all are, and I'll show you pictures of my grandson.
Exactly.
We turned down the Gerber people because we didn't want the kid to be a child actor. We just saw what happened to Wesley and Kathleen. It's just hard.
I was a Gerber baby.
You were a Gerber baby?
Yeah.
Yeah, you still are.
You really were a Gerber baby?
Yeah. You didn't know that?
I did not.
Well, you learn a new thing.
Oh my God, I'm gonna go get some cream corn and see your picture.
Well, we knew you were cute, but...
Oh my gosh. You know what's amazing? Wait, I don't mean to hijack this, but Kathy and Phil, before Land of the Lost, Kathy and Phil worked together in a commercial. They played brother and sister. And it was a Cheez-Its commercial, and I'm sure they would love to sing the Cheez-Its song they sang on TV.
Oh, you bastard.
You're right. By the way, they hate this. And come on, here we go.
And there was this song in the third season. So Wesley's going to follow up our little Cheez-It song with this song
It's
that
really
he
cute.
did.
It's something like "Hello, sunshine." Good
Oh, yeah.
morning."
Yeah, he knows it by heart.
But wait, so
It might be on YouTube. We'll go looking for it.
Yeah,
it is on you.
it's on Instagram.
Picture this. It's a Cheez-Its commercial. They're in the back of a Volkswagen thing. Their parents are driving it, and they're in the back, right? And they decide to sing about Cheez-Its. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I like munching.
I like crunching.
We like eating
Eating
Cheez-Its. Great cheese taste in
In
every
every
bite.
bite.
We like eating Cheez-Its.
Cheez-Its.
Oh, I like munching.
I like crunching.
We like eating
Cheez-Its.
Cheez-Its. I love the wild taste of cheese.
Hey, more Cheez-Its, please.
They're great crunching crackers.
I now want some Cheez-Its. That's, you guys are so effective as spokespeople. I need some Cheez-Its. Anyone got some, please? By the way, there's a microphone right here. If you guys have questions for these wonderful people, please make a line. We will definitely answer any of those questions. And, but before we get into, I do have to ask. Now, I know for the cast, you were on 2 huge sound stages. One of them had an immense blue screen. And a lot of the actors nowadays do this, but this was a little bit ahead of our time, where you had to react to a lot of things that weren't there. Did you have any tricks to doing that type of acting?
Look at that light switch, everybody. And in the still photos, like if you, on camera, you can't really tell where we're all looking because we're just all looking in that particular direction. But if somebody took a still of it, one person's kind of looking over there, somebody's looking down, somebody's looking over here. And there's funny pictures like that. I think I even have one on the table that, whoops, sorry.
Well, it was blue screen back then, not green screen like it is now, chroma key blue. And we had this giant, the floor was blue, the back of this, half the soundstage, it was huge. So the dinosaurs were on film, we were on videotape. And it was the first time that technology had ever been melded together. In fact, it didn't work the first episode, with the episode we meet Chaka. And they had all the experts in Hollywood get together. I mean, the most famous people in filmmaking. And they figured out how to meld them together at the same time. So we actually got to see the dinosaurs on the screen that were filmed, and they would shrink us down on videotape to fit proportionate to the dinosaurs. And they'd say, like, that light up there, okay, that's Grumpy's head, run this way. We go, ah! And that was the extent of our acting ability. That was it.
The problem was frame rate. Video is 30 frames a second, and film was 20, and the dinosaurs were animated at 24. We had to figure out how to, without giving more work to the animators, asking them to animate at 30 frames per second would have been extra work. So, but I don't remember how we solved it, but we did have, Wesley's right, we did have to figure out how to mix film and video. But it looks pretty good. Because we were budgeted, you're going to find this hard to believe, $35,000 an episode. And, when I figured out, this is what the writers are getting, this is what I'm getting, this is what the cast has to be getting, because I don't know what they're getting. There's no money to make this show. Sid and Marty have to be taking a loss and be planning to pick it up on syndication or whatever. They obviously were planning that it would be a 50-year phenomenon.
Well, they had some budget because we weren't getting anything.
Yeah. We're all making base,
Yeah. You did get lunch.
No, we
We
didn't.
got sandwiches.
I got-
Remember her, the lady with the basket with good sandwiches?
We had a
in
lady
it?
with a basket come around
Yeah.
with sandwiches, but you had to buy them.
Wow.
But on our set, we had, listen, I gotta tell you, it was the most amazing set in Hollywood. I mean, for 3 years, we had a jungle, and we had the lagoon, and the cave, and the chroma key blue, and every celebrity in Hollywood wanted to come to the set, because it was Sid and Marty Croft. So there was one time when Charo was chasing Chaka around the jungle, going, Gucci, 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 Gucci. And Elton John came, Stallone came, I mean, Jim Neighbors. It was the who's who of Hollywood that would come just to watch the show being filmed.
Oh, this is an amazing set here. Whoa.
Golly!
Golly.
So for David, this was an ambitious show.
Yes.
To put together. Did it, when you visualized it as, putting together the stories, did it meet your expectations, the finished product, or were you?
Well, I'll tell you, the secret is that we knew we had 17 episodes. So I said, okay, 3 episodes with the Pacuni, 3 dinosaur episodes, 1 episode for Will, 1 for Holly, 1 for Rick Marshall, 3 guest star episodes, and 3 Sleestak Lost City episodes. And so that was made for 17. And the trick was those scripts would be scattered around, sort of, you never knew what you were going to see from week to week, because you wouldn't say, oh, this is the dinosaur show, or this is the Sleestak show, because you'd never know from week to week because of the way we had set that up. And we brought in the best writers. We had Dorothy Fontana, Norman Spinrad, Ben Bova, Walter Koenig, Larry Niven. I know I'm forgetting people. Weena Sturgeon. We had just Dick Morgan, of course. Just a great set of writers who really knew science fiction. And so I would block out the story for them, and each week we would introduce something new in the Land of the Lost. There would be introduce a new dinosaur, introduce the pylons, introduce the sky snakes, the skylons. And we were going to do sky snakes, and the director said, I can't film that. Okay, so how about we do it with these floating pylons? So each week we introduced a new fact about the Land of the Lost, so that by the end of the season, you had a pretty good idea of the layout of the Land of the Lost and all the bits and pieces that were there. And then the one thing I wanted to do is I wanted to give the series an end if we didn't get renewed, so the family goes out, but because they go out, they also have to come in the earlier, so that's the episode circle. So we introduced a lot of really fun science fiction ideas, and I told all the writers, you're writing a primetime show that we are going to be showing on Saturday morning, so I want you to write a primetime level story. And they all did.
They did.
Dorothy Fontana did a great job. I was really
absolutely.
excited. Yeah.
It's my favorite episode,
Yeah, it was.
Elsewhere.
I just felt that we wanted to do a show we all would be proud of, no matter what the limitations were, that the writing had to be top-notch, first-rate, the best we could do.
Well, we owe it to David Gerrold. I mean, no, this is true, guys. We owe everything to David Gerrold. The longevity of the show, the sci-fi, it never talked down to kids. They never said, okay, here's what we're going to talk about. Is a time doorway. A time doorway. It never did that. They said, okay, we're going through a time doorway. And as a kid, you had to just understand it. Or, it never once treated kids like children. It treated them as if this is science, this is the fact, and move on.
I figured the kids were ahead of the grown-ups anyway. That's what, when I was a kid, I was ahead of the grown-ups in science. So I will tell you a funny story about the writing. We had an episode where there was a Civil War veteran living in a cave, and he had this gun, and Larry Niven co-wrote it, and I don't remember the name of the episode. And the NBC vice president said, you can't have a gun in this episode. And I said, why not? He says, we don't want the kids imitating it. I said, well, but you'll notice there's a point where Rick says to Will, give me the gun. And because he doesn't want Will to learn, he's going to be responsible about gun ownership. And I said, there's a moral there. And Joe Terratero, the NBC vice president, said, we don't have any morals on NBC. And I said, can I have that on writing? Anyway, so I said, all right, I'll rewrite the script. And it came back with a Civil War veteran. It was a minor 49er with the gun, and I rewrote it with a Civil War veteran with a cannon. And Joe Terratero sent me a memo. I know what you just did. I said, but the real fun there is we got Walker Edmiston to play the minor 49er. And Walker, most of you are too young to know this, but he was in all the kids' shows and all the puppet shows, and he was all over Saturday morning and weekday afternoon television. He did the voice of Willie the Wolf on, I forget what TV show it was, a puppet. And I mean, he was just one of the heroes of kids' television. So when we got Walker Edmiston, it was like, oh yeah.
Well, Walter also played Enoch. So,
Yeah.
and he was on Sigmund the Sea Monster. I think he was Sigmund,
Yeah.
wasn't he? He was Sigmund.
No, Sigmund was Billy Barty.
Billy Barty,
Billy
but
Barty.
who was the voice?
No, the voice. Wasn't the
He
voice?
was the voice of Sigmund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was just a great guy. Just a great guy.
Kathy did the last, I think you did the...
Dragon Con.
Did Dragon Con with Walker. He's passed on. So. But thank
Wonderful
you,
man.
David, again. I cannot tell you how many times that we get people that talk about, I know it looked hokey back then, the effects, because we didn't have CGI. it was all done, as best we could for $35,000. And we shot it in 2.5 days, so 2 shows a week. But because of the writing, of the sci-fi writing, that's the only reason Land of the Lost has survived and has still to this day a big following, and it continues to actually grow. Yeah. And so we owe this to Mr. Gerrold.
Let me talk about our dinosaur guy was Gene Warren Jr. Now, Gene Warren Sr. had done a lot of work with George Pal and had done the puppets in The Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm, which if you have, it's hard to find a copy of, but if you can, it's just a lot of fun. It was shot in Cinerama, and so it's just really widescreen. But so we would go over to their little studio, which was, I think, on Highland or somewhere around there, and they had the Lost City. It was on a table about this size, and it was all miniature, and the dinosaurs were about yay big. And I'm a big stop motion fan, so I was all fanboy visiting there and talking with them about animation and all this stuff. And we had a budget of 40 minutes. I forget what, I think they paid $100,000 for 40 minutes of stop motion animation. And so I had to plan that every shot we ordered, we were going to use at least 3 times. So in the planning of the episodes, it was, we would call these shots. So you got to see those dinosaurs 5 or 6 times in the course of the season, but each time we'd rearrange the bushes in the foreground that we would mat in.
Amazing.
That is incredible.
Very creative.
You had a very limited budget, so yeah, you had to do that type of stuff. Now, this huge set that you were on, I understand there was a lagoon on it, and I heard something about you guys went swimming in that lagoon. Was that?
Yeah, we did. We had Kathy, tell the story about Spencer.
We used to, first of all, we were like a family on screen and off. So we were very close, and we used to play a lot of pranks, which we got in trouble for because, like David said, they were on a tight budget, so they didn't like us wasting time, screwing around. So anyway, one time Spencer went to our art director and had him paint a slot machine on his chest because we were going to be doing a pond scene, and we were going to be getting undressed and jumping into the pond. And so anyway, we were kind of in on it. We knew what he was up to. But anyway, it comes down to the scene, and it's Spencer's turn to take his, top off, and he opens up his shirt, and there's the slot machine on it, and there's Sid and Marty, and they have the NBC execs with them, and it went over like the biggest lead balloon you could ever imagine. We got in so much trouble, but of course we would get in trouble. We'd like walk away with our tail between our legs, but Spencer would just go head to head with these guys. And we'd be in the background going, "Get him, Spencer!"
I think that slot machine, it had like three cherries,
a lemon, and a plum.
Exactly. It was fun. But these were kids. You have to understand. And Phil, you were like 8, 9. You were 9.
No, I was 10.
And
that show aged you, yeah.
Yeah.
10 to 13.
And Phil, you guys know that Phil was the youngest ever black belt in karate in the United States at the time.
Wow.
And tell them how you got the job for Land of the Lost. It's because of karate. Tell them what happened.
Well, I started karate when I was 4 years old at the Chuck Norris Studios in Sherman Oaks. And Chuck Norris and his great group of teachers were all my teachers. And I went like 4 or 5 days a week when I started, and I ended up progressing very quickly to where I tested and got my black belt at 9 years old. And when I did that, I got a lot of news press, and then an agent called, and they wanted to represent me, and then I got on the Tonight Show. And that was the big deal, is getting on the Tonight Show, because I did some karate with Johnny Carson and Chuck Norris, and a lot of people saw it, and that's how I ended up getting. Actually, I got an agent from that, and that's how I got sent on the interview for Land of the Lost. And I did karate for the same panel of NBC executives, Sid and Marty. It was like 8 or 10 people sitting there, and they wanted to see me do some karate, so I did some of the stuff from my recent black belt test for them, and they liked it and thought I could handle the physicality of the part, so that's how I got it.
And it's actually, if you guys can YouTube it, it's hysterical. I mean, Phil is about this tall, and Johnny Carson's up here, and he flips Johnny Carson. If you has anybody seen it? Have you ever? Just go Google Phil Paley and Johnny Carson and Chuck Norris, and it comes up, and it is hysterical. And Sid and Marty saw it, and they realized you could play the monkey.
Yes, sometimes it's on YouTube, and then it gets taken down. So
Yeah, one of the things about the makeup is you don't always, you only see the actor in the makeup, and if it's a face covering thing, you don't know what the actor really looks like. I don't know what Phil looks like until long after the show, because every time I saw him, he was in the makeup. But we had Sharon Baird and
Joe Jamalva.
Yeah, and Sharon
Scudder McKay.
Yeah, and Sharon Baird is another Hollywood hero. Works on a lot of shows.
She was a Musketeer.
Yeah.
Original.
And just the chance to work with all these good people, it's like, gosh, I hope I someday get a chance to work with all these good people. And Land of the Lost was one of those opportunities where so many good people showed up both in front of and behind the cameras. It's one of the high points of my career. It's people ask, what did you do? And if I'm in the right sort of mood, I say, I wrote the novelization of Battle for the Planet of the Apes. But, but sometimes at conventions where they say, and he wrote the Tribbles in it for Star Trek, I say, I also worked on Land of the Lost. And that's when the whole audience goes, whoa! Which is like, wow, yeah. It's like, you guys don't always know how big a fan following you have.
Now, Phil, because Dave mentioned this, the makeup and the outfit, how long did it take for you to get into that outfit, and how comfortable was it?
Well, when Michael Westmore first started doing the makeup on me, he took a lot more time than the makeup artist, like 3 years into it. So in the beginning, it took a couple hours, and it was very carefully applied, like layers of castor oil-based makeup, which was very thick, and then he penciled lines on my face, and he did these custom prosthetics. The forehead was a custom prosthetic that he made in his garage in the valley, where I went, and he created molds of my head where they stuck tubes up my nose and covered my whole head in
Plaster of Paris.
not plaster of Paris. It was like made out of seaweed. I forget the name of it, but anyway, made this whole mold of my whole head, and it was kind of crazy because I was, either just turning 10, but it was like, and I'm a little claustrophobic to have that done. It was kind of crazy, but he was great to work with. He's totally sweet, and did an amazing job on the prosthetics. He also made my teeth, which were made out of acrylic. He did a dental mold off my teeth, and then created by hand the custom teeth for those, which when he was done and they fit in, tasted like dirty feet. I don't know why, if it was the acrylic or whatever he made it with, but so they didn't taste very good, and the makeup was heavy and hot, and the sets were like 200 degrees, and I was wearing this hand-sewn suit that we rented from Universal Studios that was made out of real human hair that had been carefully sewn into this nylon like pantyhose material. So there were knots on the inside of it, little tiny knots, so it was itchy. And hot and
They
itchy.
sprayed your hands with that spray paint that was stinky too.
So the whole thing was a odoriferous party going on there with sticky feet in my mouth and hot itchy suit, and then but because I was disciplined, I just showed up and rolled through it all. Said my lines correctly and hit my marks.
You didn't have a lot of difficult dialogue, we had a UCLA linguist develop a Pacuni dictionary, And we got into a little fight about that because she came back with her Pacuni dictionary and she said, now the Pacu can't pronounce L or H. I said, great, our characters are named Will, Holly, and Rick. And she says, well, the Pacu will call them Wira and Ari. And I said, oh yeah, that's great. And how are we going to learn the word Sleestak? Because they're going to call it, and she says, well, they're going to be Sleestak. And says, oh yeah. And so when Chaka says Sleestak, our people are going to say, oh, you mean Sleestak? So I finally had to solve that problem by, in one of the early episodes, there's somebody has written on the wall of the lost city, beware of Sleestak. So that was how we knew that the Sleestaks were called Sleestak. But I was very upset with, and you know, the Pacu dictionary is very, very good, but she, you know,
Victoria
was totally
Croft, yeah.
oblivious to the fact that Will and Holly.
And our last name being Marshall became
Rick.
Marashara.
So, but it was pretty soon by the end of the season, the Pacu had a pretty good language going. And now I will tell you why they hired her. They said to me, we're going to hire this linguist. I said, why? I said, we're afraid you're going to come up with some secret message in the Pacu language to make fun of us. I said, why would I do that? That's unprofessional. Never mind, we already hired her.
But they had a reason to be weary of David Gerrold. Because tell them about what the Enig's original name was.
Oh, it was Enig, which was, Walter Koenig created this character, and he says, I've named him Enig, which is Gene spelled backward, and to honor Gene Roddenberry. And I said, I'm having a problem with that. Make it Enig, which is Kine spelled backwards, which is film. The technical term for film is in France. And he said, oh, all right. I just had a little,
He said it just like that,
Oh my
didn't
God.
he?
Can
You
I-
really mimicked him very
Can
well.
I tell you a story about Walter? You guys know Walter Koenig, played Chekhov, the original Chekhov, right? So we see, Kathy and I do the Star Trek convention every year at the Rio, which we're doing in a week and a half. And Walter comes by, he's got his hat on, and he's shuffling these days, and he shuffles over to our table and goes, those damn Crofts, I should have gotten residuals for Enoch, I should have gotten residuals.
Well, that was the 1973 contract, and we didn't get a writer's contract where you got character creation rights until after Dorothy Fontana lobbied for them because she never got paid for the reuse of the character Sarek in the movies. So now he would get those now. But Walter's a good guy. He's had a great career. He was on Babylon 5, and he just keeps chugging along.
You know, again to David, is that Marty Croft, we all did a Comic-Con together, David and myself and Marty and Sid. And initially, Land of the Lost was going to be basically kind of Swiss Family Robinson, a father and a son, you know, on a rafting trip and stuff. And I think it's because of David Gerrold it became this science fiction, as opposed to just an ordinary raft trip with natives and, you know, animals, wild animals. So, and that was according to Marty Croft.
I appreciate all the credit, but I have to give the credit to the writers and the cast and the behind-the-scenes crew and Gene Warren Jr. and the special effects people and everybody who worked on it. Because, you know, I can put the words on paper, but everybody else has to bring it to life. And I was very impressed and very proud of the job we did on very little funding. It's just everybody knew that we were doing something special, so they gave a little extra or a lot extra. So you know, I like bragging about, oh yeah, I got to work on Land of the Lost. And Marty asked me to do a Land of the Lost novel, which I wrote half of, and then my agent said, well, I don't get it. Is this a young adult novel or a serious novel? I said, oh God. So I'm going to finish it. There will be a Land of the Lost novel.
Nice.
And I'll tell you a little bit about the idea is because if we could do a Land of the Lost Return TV series, there's a new family. Apparently there was a younger brother who couldn't go on the rafting trip because he was too young, but he grew up and he's been searching for his family ever since. So he and a much more technologically equipped group, they find the Land of the Lost, they come in, they find Will and Holly have survived, but have been changed by their experience. And I guess we can have Chaka too, I hadn't even thought about that. So
King of the Pacu.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Or maybe he shaves and becomes, you know, Tom Cruise.
Yeah, oh, God. So anyway,
like King of the
but that
Baku
was,
better.
that's where I'm going with the novel. I just haven't have figured out how to finish it, though. But there will be, it's called Land of Lost, The Return.
Yeah.
If you have questions, there's a mic
yeah.
right over here. Come on up. Come on up, please.
Is the novel going to take into account season 2, 3, and 4?
There was a 4th season.
Or
The novel.
I thought it was, well,
The
Three
novel
seasons.
Three
will
seasons.
take into the account what I want it to take into account.
fair enough.
I will tell you, we did a fan film for Star Trek New Voyages, and I had the bloodworms in it, and some fan who was working on the set said, "Excuse me, Mr. Gerrold, that's not how bloodworms work." And I said, "I made up the damn bloodworms. They'll do what I tell them to." So that's what I'm going to do with Land of the Lost, The Return.
I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
You know, when the movie came out with Will Ferrell, Phil and I went to the premiere, the opening and stuff, and after it was all over, they had this huge party in Hollywood, at Hollywood and Highland, and every celebrity was there. It was ice sculptures and Land of the Lost projections and props and all that stuff, and just tons of Muriel Hemingway, all these people were there. And Phil and I were in the corner, and we're looking at all these hundreds and hundreds of people, all this catering, all this money, and we said, "Do you realize this party costs more than all 3 seasons of Land of the Lost?"
I wasn't invited, so I don't know.
Oh, my God. Remember? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see that movie. It wasn't the original. All due respect to Will Ferrell, he's a fabulous comedic actor. I didn't want to see my childhood, basically. So,
I had heard the movie was not true to the intention of the original series, so I didn't go see it. And then I got a phone call from my buddy Harlan Ellison, who says, "Oh, I saw on cable, I saw the Land of the Lost movie. It was pretty good." Everybody else hated the movie. Harlan Ellison calls me and says, "I enjoyed it." So I say, "All right, I'll go see it."
Yeah, when I went to the premiere, I actually, I thought it was somewhat entertaining on some levels, but there were some things that really bothered me about it. And I just think that the fact that they went with it in a comedic way just didn't work really. So there was like this disconnect, and that's why I ended up not liking it. But it was somewhat entertaining at points in the movie. But Will Ferrell is funny, and actually he, you were talking about the minor part from the show, and he did a takeoff of that same, it's on like the best of Saturday Night Live. He did his version of that minor character, and it's hilarious.
Oh, I have to look for it.
Yeah, really funny. It was just one scene, and they were all cracking up because he was so funny, and he totally ripped it off from.
Well, he's a big fan of Land of the Lost. He played a character, I forget, from another movie called Marshall Willenholly. Do you guys remember that? Yeah?
Marshall Willenholly.
That was his last name was Willenholly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, this woman has a question, though. Why don't we?
Hello, I have 2 quick questions for my daughter Jessie. And one of them is, were you lip syncing when you were singing?
Yes, I was lip syncing. Chaka gives me a Gord guitar, and it was miraculous. It was tuned. I don't know how that worked. It was, and 3 strings sounded like an orchestra. I know it's 4 strings.
And written by the Osmond brothers.
Yeah, I would go to I had to go to the Osmonds had a house, an apartment building they owned next to the Mormon temple on Santa Monica Boulevard, and I would go there, and it was the oddest thing because these are rich people, right? They had no light switch. They had no light plates on the switches. And I'm going into their place and go, wait, where are the light covers? Anyway, we go in, and they had written the songs, and I went in and we recorded those little ditties and stuff like that. So I recorded them at the Osmonds' home or studio. They had a little in-home studio, and then it was played. Yes, so I did lip sync. And I sang the theme song to Land of the Lost and the closing song, and so I don't know if you guys know.
I think it's fair that since you made some people sing, you have to sing the theme song.
Would you guys sing along? Do you know the song? Will you sing it with us? All right, you ready? Come on, everybody, you ready? You have to sing it too, David.
There's an injunction against me singing.
Come on, Key, you ready? All right, let's do the opening first, ready? Marshall, Will, and Holly on a routine expedition met the greatest earthquake ever known. High on the rapids, it struck their tiny raft. Plunged them down 1,000 feet below to the land of the lost, to the land of the lost. And then Grumpy goes, roar! And the closer, you ready? My favorite. When I look all around, I can't believe the things I found. Now I need to find my way. I'm lost, I'm lost. Find me living in the land of the lost, 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 lost. Living in the land of the lost. Sid and Marty Croft.
So how did that come about? How did they decide to have you be the singer of the song?
Well, I was actually signed to Motown. You've heard of me, right? No, nobody ever did that. But I was doing all the Teen Idol stuff at the time. I had just had a series, and so they thought I was just Wesley, by the way.
In the casting meetings, it was discussed. This kid can sing. He can do the song. Yeah, that's a good idea.
So it was great. And in fact, the guy that recorded it was Michael Lloyd. Michael at his studio, and Michael is one of the most famous recording engineers. But he was also in the boy band as a singer with me. There were four of us, and it was a boy band thing and stuff like that. But the thing I had to go, when we got Uncle Jack, I had to go back into the studio, re-record the theme song, because it didn't work anymore with Uncle Jack. So it was Will and Holly Marshall, as the earth beneath them trembled, lost their father through the door of time. Uncle Jack was searching and found the kids at last, looking for a way to escape from the land of the lost, roar. So we had to go do that.
So who wrote those new lyrics? Was it, something?
I don't know.
David?
Not me. The song was a surprise to me. It's like we put the first episode together and we're watching it and said, who the hell did the singing? What is there singing on this show? Oh, that's not bad. Okay.
I got no credit for it on the way, by the way.
It was weird. It was just weird. Because I was so focused on the script writing that I hadn't paid any attention to the credit sequence or whatever. There was a thing, I said, going into Land Lost by a waterfall, that's extra money just to build that waterfall. And I can get them into Land Lost a lot easier with just, a time doorway in a cave kind of thing. And Sid said, I want a waterfall. And that was it. Sid was locked into the idea of the waterfall, and it was more money. And it's like, okay, there's some argument. You choose your battles. And that was one that, after the second or third time I brought up the idea, and Sid said, I want water. I said, all right, fine. And he wasn't messing around with the scripts. I wasn't getting any weird feedback. You have to do this and you can't do that. So I was having a great time because I was hiring a lot of good writers. And so I said, all right, you can have your damn waterfall, but I'm going to have this show work. I'm going to have these scripts be wonderful. Yeah.
So what, Jesse, for Jesse?
The other question you might not know the answer to, but she wants to know why Dopey was not in season 3.
I do not know that.
It was eaten by Grumpy.
No.
Eaten by Grumpy, okay.
Okay, no.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Have you guys, if you come to our table, have you seen the Dopey that she brought? She had a replica of the Dopey puppet created by Russ Adams, who's a model maker, and to look exactly like the Dopey puppet we had in the series.
Well, Dopey would have grown up and been too big to film.
Yeah. My favorite line in Land of the Lost, the entire favorite line, I hope you wrote this, but Dopey is caught in a tree, and he's screaming, and Grumpy's coming to eat him, and I'm going, Dopey, go back, and he won't move, and I finally yell, do you want to be dinosaur stew? And Dopey goes, whoop, and flips over. It's my favorite moment.
Hi, my name is Jerry. It's me again. Anyway, I just wanted to ask, if you had the opportunity back in the 60s and 70s to be on any other Sid and Marty Croft show, which one would it be?
Wow, that's...
I would pick Puff and Stuff, probably.
Yes.
Me too.
I love Jack Wild, too.
Yes.
I would have probably picked Puff and Stuff.
And I wouldn't have mind being Sigmund with Johnny Whitaker. I mean, come on, let's, play.
And you got to, with Rip Taylor.
Oh,
who was
you
just
would
a
have
hoot
liked
to watch him work.
Lidsville.
Hey, Rip was great,
Lidsville.
yeah.
Lidsville for you. You could have been with Charles Nelson
Yeah.
Riley.
Excuse me, I'm a genie.
No, that's Paul.
Oh, that's Paul Lynde.
Yeah,
Never mind.
Charles Nelson Riley.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for the question. Thank
Good
you.
question.
Hi there, guys. Thanks for coming. How is it like working with Spencer Milligan versus Ron Harper?
Spencer was like our dad.
He still is, by the way.
Yeah, big time. And it was an adjustment.
It was.
an adjustment.
I was working on Days of Our Lives at the time, so I would film in the morning days and do Land of the Lost. And Ron's wife was on Days of Our Lives with me, so it was like a little juxtaposition. But Spencer, to this day, we talk to him, and he'll call. I get a phone call from Spencer, and the first thing he goes, "Hey Wesley, this is your Papa speaking," And I go, "Papa, can you hear me?" But he's great, and we are very much like family. The three of us are like brother and sister, and we talk all the time. And I know a lot of cast are not, kind of once the show's over, that's it. But we have all stayed very, very, very much in contact, and including this talented man. So
Thank you.
And also, how long did it take to film each episode?
2.5 days.
That's it?
Yeah, two full episodes a week. It was unheard of, and that's because of the budget. And of course the Sleestak. I mean, tell us about how the Sleestak, because Marty said when the Sleestak were introduced, I think it was the third episode. And,
Yeah, something like that.
And the ratings at NBC went through the roof. It became the #1 show.
Sid hadn't really blocked out what he wanted to do in the show. He just had a book of pictures that he had cut up from magazines, which right then I was like, oh God, you cut up my favorite magazine. And he had dinosaurs and whatever, and he had a Tarzan-like figure. I said, I can't do the Tarzan figure because I just did a Tarzan script over at Filmation, and I'm not going to do a conflict of interest. But I said, we need a lost city, and we will have some lizard men in the lost city. And he said, oh, all right. There was no argument. And so in the first script, I described where the Sleestak appear, I described them as they're 9 feet tall. And I described that we were going to get the tallest basketball players we could get, and we would put them on foot-high stilts, boots that were at least a foot high, maybe 1.5 feet. And then we would give them and I described with the big eyes, because I had seen that trick with to make the bug eyes, and we'll give them a horn for another foot, so they're really big. And so the costume department came up with exactly what I had described. So the first time I walk on the set, and here's these 3 9-foot Sleestaks, I freaked. It was like, oh my God! And also, the thing is you can't have overt violence on Saturday morning, so I had to have, the Sleestak were always written as being a threat, but very rarely did you see them touch the family or do anything specific. That was all kept off screen. And then if you've ever seen the 1953 movie Invaders from Mars, where they have the Martians in the, suits, which were a little bit of the, we should do something like that for our lizard men. I said, but the way they walk through the tunnels is so scary. 1953, I'm looking at that movie, I'm terrified of these Martians. I said, that's how our Sleestak have to be moving through the caves. So that was pretty much, and then for the name of them, I went through a lot of, I said, what is a really terrifying sound? Hiss, Sleestak, and I put these syllables together, came up with Sleestak, and it all gelled into the, we would get, to this day, I had people coming up and saying, you scared the crap out of me when I was 5 years old. I said, good, got my job done. So apparently the Sleestak were really, now we knew that the dinosaurs were going to pull a rating because, and one of the things I said, we're going to write for adults that kids can watch, and I knew the dinosaurs would pull a rating, but once the Sleestak appeared, as we said, the ratings went through the roof. I said, I don't know, we just touched lightning. We just touched lightning here. Caught it in a bottle.
Yeah.
That is so awesome.
It's amazing how the word Sleestak and Chaka have become part of the lexicon for pop culture, that people will talk, he's as tall as a Sleestak. But our favorite, do you guys know that Bill Lambier of the Detroit Pistons was a Sleestak? So the bad boy of basketball, when he was in high
And
school.
those
college.
costumes were hot and uncomfortable. Those
Yeah.
guys, yeah, we got 3 guys from USC. They did it that first season. They were happy to get the work, but those costumes were hot and uncomfortable. So, like Phillip's costume was hot and uncomfortable. Nobody worries about the comfort of the actor. You just want to get it you just want to get it in the can.
Yeah, they're wearing wetsuits under 10-degree lights on
Yeah.
the set and expected, they couldn't last more than a few minutes doing their scene, and then they had to take the wetsuit down. They'd just be drenched in sweat.
Yeah.
And one of the scenes where they at Sleestak actually did make contact with Spencer, they pushed him into the pit. And he goes flying into the pit, and he comes back up. He does like a trampoline double bounce, and he comes into frame. It's the funniest thing.
What they had missed, right? So when he fell into the pit, you would see him. Or there was a net under there. So he went under the mist, and he goes ding and bounced above the thing and comes back down.
Now, the thing is that the goal, and we never got to do it, is the pit. And you would be, whoever would be in the pit, and you'd hear these god-awful noises that something big and hungry was coming, like it was the Sleestak queen, right? And we never got to do it, but if we had ever seen it, it would be a little short Sleestak. It was like,
just
we're
they had a
afraid of
lot
that
of
thing, and then it
energy.
opens his mouth and you teeth.
Yeah.
We got a question.
We have time for one more.
Okay.
So finish that out.
If there had been a 4th season, was there any storyline or episode or vignette that you would have liked to have seen for your character or for an episode in general that you never got to make?
Well, I would have loved to have seen a real ending. I know David wrote The Circle, which is my favorite episode. That's the end of season 1, because who knew if the show was going to be picked up again, right? So, but the 3rd season, basically with Ron, became like, who's the next guest star? We got a Cyclops, we got Medusa. It lost the David Gerrold flair. It wasn't the sci-fi. Chaka suddenly spoke perfect English. I was singing with a 4-string guitar. It kind of lost, for me, it lost a lot, the magic.
It turned into Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I would have loved to have had a real ending for the show. And that, for me, that would have been great.
I would have liked to have do an episode that NBC said, you are absolutely not going to do this episode. It was called The Littlest Sleestak. And it was, the family finds an egg and it hatches and it's a little tiny Sleestak. And they start raising it. Enoch comes and says, we must have our child back. And it had a rather morbid ending, which I think is and I said, I can make the ending a little happier. No, you're not going to do anything about how Sleestak reproduce. Okay. So
That would have been cool.
Yeah. Well, in the movie they do. In the Will Ferrell movie, they actually have a little thing about it.
I made up the Sleestak. They'll do what I tell them.
Thank you so much for that question. Thank you.
All right, well, we're about out of time, but thank you guys so much, and be sure to visit them at their tables. They got plenty of autographs.
And this is the first time, by the way, that the 4 of us with David has joined us. So, I mean, this is like, if you want an autograph with a unique combination with David Gerrold, please.
It's a real treat for me to be with Wesley and Kathy and Phillip and the Sleestak again, because it's as Wesley said, we're family, and it's a family reunion. So I'm real thrilled.
Yeah, we have been part of each other's personal lives, all of us, for many, many years. I have always said that the Crofts didn't just cast my TV family, but they cast my real life family.
Wesley wrote a book many years ago called The Red Wings of Christmas, and I had just adopted my son, and we took him to Wesley's autograph party, and we got a copy of Red Wings of Christmas, and I would read a page or 2 of it every night. My son was 8 years old at the time, and he was so thrilled that he had this book from Will Marshall, because even he was familiar with Land of the Lost. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
That's awesome, guys. Well, give them a nice round of applause. Definitely visit them at their tables.
Thank you, guys.
This is John Glover, and you are watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Lionel Luther recommends it. Have some fun. Follow your fandom.